Welcome to the Bowel Chronicles, where we dive deep into the world of bowel health. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and on this podcast we have raw and candid conversations with individuals facing various bowel conditions and illnesses. Through personal stories and shared experiences, we illuminate resilience and courage in the face of adversity. Be reminded that each story is personal and unique. These conversations are not to be taken as medical advice or to replace guidance from a doctor or healthcare provider. Our aim is to inspire and empower through these amazing stories, amplifying voices often unheard. So join us as we embark on this journey together. Sit back, listen, and be inspired. Enjoy the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bowel Chronicles. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and today we are joined by little Lottie. I'm going to call you little Lottie because you do look very petite to me, and her mum, Angela. Guys, it's really, really good to have you here today. Lottie, for you to share with us your amazing story. We've been talking there behind the scenes, and I'm just blown away by everything you've gone through and that you continue to go through. I mean, you're a tough wee cookie. I'll call you that. Yeah, let's start your story. Let's go back to when you were young. So, Lottie, you're just 12 years old now. Yeah?
Yeah.
But you've really been poorly from you've been two.
Yeah, two. I guess from birth she was always a sicky baby
Okay.
and couldn't tolerate much fluids, and that was the problem. And then we thought it was bladder problems, not bowel problems.
Okay.
So for 2 years they focused on her bladder, which she constantly lived in hospital with urine infections that normal antibiotics just couldn't treat. And it wasn't until we had a different doctor come on, and she'd done a poo one day in a commode, and he said, "Has that poo been tested?" And we was like, "Why would it be? It was a hard poo." And I didn't understand what he meant by "has it been tested," because he'd gone through all of Lottie's diagnoses and problems. And it came back she'd got C. diff.
Yes.
When they tested it. And usually, obviously, it's diarrhea when they've got C. diff, and Lottie, it just wasn't normal, and her calprotectin levels was really high. And so that was the first we'd known of any sort of bowel issue. She'd gone for scans.
Was the C. diff active, or was she just a carrier of it?
Yeah, it was active, and they told me that she wouldn't be a carrier. They said they're going to do the test for it, but don't worry, she wouldn't be a carrier. And we got the phone call the week later, she's a carrier.
I can't get my head around that, because normally you can be a carrier and it's not being active, but if it's active, they can treat it, but you'll always be a carrier. Wow.
I have no idea. Every time we go into hospital, the only difference it makes is that we don't go into a bay, we always go into a side room.
I'm a carrier, Lottie. I'm a carrier.
Which is sometimes good, but sometimes when you're there for a long time, you just want to talk to other people.
I know.
So yeah. And then they did some bowel scans, and she'd got really inflamed bowel. And then they didn't want to do anything about it. They kind of like dismissed everything.
She was going to the toilet, but it was really hard poo.
Yes.
Was she constipated, or?
Yeah, she was constantly constipated. And they kept trying to give her so many fluids around that, medication wise, and she just couldn't tolerate it at all. So that's when she started having the NG tube in, and they did it that way, but it was the same reaction. So I think they thought she was being difficult and not tolerating the fluid and vomiting because she was being a difficult child. That's the impression that it gave us. But as soon as they started to put in through the NG tube, she couldn't even take 1 litre and she was vomiting.
Do you remember having the NG tube?
Yeah. How did you feel?
Weird.
Weird. You didn't like it, did you? No.
I mean, once I took it, I did it, but I didn't I wasn't crying or anything that day. I
Yeah.
just did it. I don't know how.
It was hard, wasn't it? I think
Yeah.
it depended on who the nurse
Yeah.
and who was available to do it because she was known in the hospital.
Can you remember whenever they were feeding it up your nose and you had to drink through a straw for it to go down your throat? Can you remember that one?
So
Oh,
so
I
we had a
think
problem
so.
with that, didn't we? One of the nurses wouldn't. So we the first time she had it, they let her do that,
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
they?
I remember.
And one of the nurses the next time wouldn't let her do it. They wouldn't let her drink. They
Wait, is that the one
refused.
where I gave her the really bad side eye?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She was like,
I love I'll be giving
yeah.
her a side eye too.
Yeah, so it was,
Uncomfortable.
you kind of don't understand it sometimes, do you? Because they'll say one thing to you about treatments and what she's going to have done and what they're going to do, and then you'll have another shift doctor come on if if she's in A&E as an outpatient or something, or an inpatient, sorry, and then they'll sort of do another thing when the doctor swaps over. So she suffers a lot with trust, don't you?
Yeah.
And trauma and things. But
And
yeah.
that's understandable because you were so young whenever all of this started to happen to you. You know, it's a really intimate part of your body. It's a really private part of your body that people are, wanting to deal with or fix or, look at and x-ray and examine. Like, what young person, I mean, an old person doesn't like it, but what young person is going to be comfortable with that? And it's going to cause you a lot of trauma then, in relation to future appointments and x-ray scans, procedures, the whole heap. How old were you then whenever you had to have your ACE surgery?
So you had it 3 years ago. So you were 13 this year. It was the February. So she would have been 10.
Jeez.
She was
Mhm.
10, yeah, wasn't you?
Mm.
Because
That,
what did that? Can you remember what they said when they gave you the option? They gave you two options.
yeah, they said this one and then one
So the
up.
ACE, didn't they? And then
Yeah,
what was the other one?
one up my bottom.
Yeah, the rectal therapy, which Lottie had lots of problems in hospital with nurses, didn't you? Giving enemas.
Mhm.
So again, it's with the trauma, and some of them, if you take things slow and steady and explain, and get her in the mood and put some music on, and
Taylor
just
Swift mainly.
take that anxiety away for you,
Mhm.
wasn't it? It was, she'd be fine. But one nurse just came in and she was like, boom, open up, put it in, and just how you've got the thing. It was
Yeah.
really awful. Um, and it
Both
just
of her.
that one time just scarred her, and she would not have anybody near her after that.
Mhm.
It was, it just wasn't good, was it? You didn't like it.
So rectal therapy, was that then basically bowel irrigation where you would insert the um, catheter and pass in the water all of the time at home?
So that she only started doing that. She refused that, the
Mhm.
rectal, the irrigation. So
Mhm.
that's when they went straight with the ACE, because
Mhm.
she'd had so many NG. She was going in every 12 weeks for an NG tube, sometimes every 6 to have it done. So I think you just got a bit fed up, didn't you?
Yeah.
And but it wasn't every time she had the NG tube to have it emptied.
Mhm.
Um, it was hard, wasn't it? Because her bowel was so impacted, she'd get a urine infection. But because it was pushing that bad on her bladder, the reflux is now permanent,
Mhm.
and it was just going up to her kidneys. So her left kidney got double the size it should be.
Yeah.
So it just impacted everything, not just her
And
bowels.
there's some similarities here in us, Lottie, so that's why I'm asking these questions. Are you on a treatment now for your kidney for that to try and
Um,
prevent?
so they started. She's always been on Proflax,
Okay.
antibiotics, but now even Tazocin as an antibiotic doesn't work with Lottie. So we have to be very careful of.
Have they ever talked about removing the antibiotics and putting her on like an antiseptic form of treatment?
No,
Okay.
They've
That's
they've
something that I
just
take.
there's a new medication that's come out, and she said it wasn't an antibiotic, but so she was. Have you heard of Domano? She's been on that for like 2 years.
No.
It's just more of a herbal medication,
Okay.
but again, it didn't do anything. But there is a new medication that's come out that they want to start her on that's not antibiotic based, so that might be it. It begins with an M. I can't remember what it's called.
The fancy name for it, I think, is methanamine hyprate.
That's the one, yes.
So I take that in the morning and I take it at nighttime. It's very sherbety whenever you put it on your tongue, so I swallow it very quickly. But it works as like an antiseptic. So basically, it works in the kidneys to kind of keep them as pure and clean and infection free as it moves
That
down
might
from the
work.
bladder. So I know quite a few people on it. They usually give it to old
Ah,
people.
that's what she said to me. Yeah,
40
she
years
says.
old. I mean, really old. I mean, 70 or 80.
Yeah, she said they don't usually give it to younger people, let alone middle age. She says it's usually for older people, but they are trialing it now. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
They've not.
fingers crossed that something like that will work for you and not
Yeah.
infection free for a couple of months. So I do know.
Did you have the urodynamics test done then?
Yes.
How was that? Because Lottie's got that in 2 weeks.
No, I am. I'm staying here.
It's
I'm
worth
gonna
having
hide
done.
and stay.
It's worth having
Yeah.
done for them to look to see what if they can see anything going on,
Yeah.
and then they'll take it from there. What form of treatment is best for you? Yeah, you've been through so much. It's absolutely nothing in comparison to what you've already come through.
That's what I keep saying. Yeah.
So let's tell the audience, the people that are going to be listening to this chat today, or watching us chat, let's tell them what an ACE is.
Can you remember? What antigrade colonic?
I can't say all that.
Antigrade colonic enema.
That's real. I'm really, really impressed, girls, because I wasn't even meaning you to give me the
Well,
name of it.
yeah, that's what it's called. The long name.
Yeah.
What does it do? What happens when you go for an ACE? They take the appendix, don't they?
Yeah.
So they take the appendix and they attach it to the colon, the large colon, and then they bring it out as a stoma on your tummy, don't they? Yeah, that's what your hole was. It's also a stoma. Classed as a stoma. So really, you had 3 stomas. And then Lottie would have a certain amount of medication go through that every evening, so she'd have to sit on the toilet.
Sometimes we did skip it.
Well, we'd have to sometimes if you had an infection and you wasn't able to, you couldn't always do it. So Lottie, you had lots of problems with your ACE, didn't you? And from looking on social media and knowing quite a lot of children and the parents that have gone through this, it does cause a lot of problems. There's a lot of healing issues, infection issues. But then I suppose when you're talking about the bowels and bringing things onto the tummy, it's going to cause infections. But again, with Lottie's skin healing, it was a lot of trouble, wasn't it?
Yep.
So really, you've got this little button thing. Did you have a little plastic cover?
Yeah.
In yours, a little balloon inflates inside the tummy.
Yeah.
And then you put in this little catheter tube.
Yeah.
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 And then you would flush it through, sit in the toilet, and hope that something comes out.
And pray. It was just usually water that'd come out. We wouldn't get any sort of. It kind of went around the poop and just came out with the water, and then the poop would stay in there. So it wasn't. So she was still having her medication through that, but still having to have an NG tube as well, because she needed it hit from both ways.
Yeah.
To try and break up.
So you were flushing in laxatives through the ACE, and then still having this NG, and still having this
having clean prep through. Yeah.
Clean prep. Oh gosh, we used to have to drink that stuff every 2 days. It's
yeah.
Horrendous. Wow. And so basically they've said, slow bowel dysmotility, and no other rhyme or reason for this that had been going on from birth. And
no, yeah,
it doesn't fix it.
From what I've kind of seen, and I've not really researched, but obviously looking at, we've got quite a few bowel friends now with the children, and looking and talking to other parents, there's no voice and no, that every time you go, they say, oh, you're unique. We've never seen this before. And like, because I remember, I don't know if you know Jax, his mum Mel. I remember giving her a call because I saw her page on Facebook, and I just cried. I started crying because I thought everything she's saying that Jax is going through, Lottie's going through, and just to find somebody who was going through the same thing, and to know, no, she's not just unique. There is a lot of children out there with this problem. They're not being listened to. It's like they're being brushed away. I think it was such a relief, but
because I don't know, is it too much like hard work for a GP to take it on, to want to advocate for its patient? Like.
But you've got to think that this girl, Lottie, was in hospital every other month at least. That's I'd say every 6 weeks she was in hospital, and she'd have to stay in from 6 days to 4 weeks. And still, it took me breaking down numerous times. And she's got the same consultant the whole time, never changed consultants. And it took until, like, so 6 months before she had a race, it took until then, so from 3 until 10, for somebody to listen and understand that, because they couldn't get her better then at that point, they knew they had to move on to somebody else. But why should it have to get to that point before she's listened to?
Why does it have to be 7 years of hospitalization? Why does it have to be 7 years? Yes, she might have been a child, but it's also 7 years of your life as a parent, 7 years of your life of having to advocate, you know, and this has a knock-on effect. It's just not Lottie we're talking about. It's you as a mum. It's you in your family unit. You've got so much more going on in those 7 years. It's a long, long time to have to wait.
It was, and at that time, I think it got to the point at that time, because, like I say, she's got 4 brothers, and I was the sole parent. My husband passed away in that time as well, when Lottie was poorly. So I'd got nobody sort of to help, or just a shoulder to cry on, really, through that time. So it got to the point where I broke down to the doctors. And for me, that was so not important, but it was just, I felt like I was a bad parent because I needed their help, but I needed their help to make Lottie better. And that's what I needed to make them understand. And that's when they passed on to the next hospital, and they referred us. And well, we literally went from Kingsmill to QMC hospital, and we left with a plan. And it was crazy. Within 2 days, we'd got a plan, and it was like 7 years we've had nothing.
Wow.
To then go to a plan of, like, in a couple of weeks, she's having an ace. So it went from nothing to very quick, didn't it? And it was like, I think you didn't have time to think, did you, on what you wanted to do? Do you remember any of that time? No.
She's like, I would rather not remember any of that time.
Yeah. You just like being in hospital. And
so how did we progress then? Because obviously, I still can't get my head around this. That you typically, I can't give it a name. In the football world, someone might say you've scored a hat trick, which is 3 goals in a row. You've had an ace, you've had a colostomy, and an ileostomy. Technically, you've lived with all 3, working at the same time. How did we get from the ace stoma to having a colostomy stoma?
So she went into, the ace obviously wasn't working, and it was still putting pressure on the bladder. So we went into hospital, not last year, the year before, in February, and we lived in there until August. So we didn't come out at all. She was allowed leave for a couple of hours. She missed us. This was when she was in year 6 at school as well. So it was leavers. So she missed everything. They let her go to a leavers party for a couple of hours, didn't they? She'd still got cannulas and long lines in while she was going to a school leavers party. So yeah, we was in for 6 months. And they said,
Bleeding must
right,
have been very, very poorly. Very, very poorly.
just no antibiotic would fix her. She was just constantly, her CRP levels was just constantly rising. It was going to sepsis. She was really, really bad. And then they started her on a new, they called it the bleach antibiotic, and it kept her at a level where she was okay. She wasn't well, but she wasn't that poorly that she was
again.
yeah, she was needing intervention, as in oxygen or NG tube, but she was just a mess when she went in. So they kept her, she was on that antibiotic for 6 weeks intravenously through a long line. And she had to have it 4 times a day. So that was hard. Because Lottie's veins as well, she's been through so much with that.
Well,
like she's had 23 attempts at a cannula in one day. She has, so when they do long lines and midlines, they usually take children to theatre to do them. This one had 6 attempts at one, awake, just with gas and air in one day.
I mean, I'm happy I had gas and air.
You like gas and air, don't
Bring
you?
it on. Bring it
Yeah.
on.
She said, I can have any procedure as long as you give me gas and air. So yeah. Again, seeing your child go through that is hard. But as long as she's
another
she's
6 months
smiling.
of your life, 6 months of you having to be present 24/7, or feel like you've got to be present 24/7 in a hospital, but you've got 4 other kids. It's
very. I'm lucky that there was, I'll say, older. I mean, my oldest is 23, so that was 3 years ago, so he'd have been 20, and then I got 3 under him. So it's still, you still want to be present. He'd gone to university in Liverpool, so there was 3 at home, and it's really hard. But yeah, so we went from that, and then we went to the other hospital again, and then they decided that no, this is not working. It's affecting her kidneys too much. So she went for a scan, and it showed that her kidneys are now severely scarred from all the infections. And her consultant from one hospital was saying, no, it's your fault. You're not doing enough for her bowels. Her bowels are causing this on her bladder. And it was effectively, we was in the middle of an argument between 2 consultants who didn't want to be the one to do anything for her. And again, it took us to break down and get everybody in a room and say, this is the plan that we need to do. So then it was actually the kidney doctors who forced the colostomy onto the surgeon and said, you need to try something else, whether it's an ileostomy, colostomy, you need to try it. So that's when her surgeon says, right, we'll try it. So she went for her colostomy. It was a year ago, February the 7th last year. She had her colostomy. Within 2 weeks, she had to have it refashioned because they'd done it wrong. So she was in immense pain. Yeah. They basically said to us that if it's in between, if it's 2 weeks before or 6 weeks after, they'd be able to do the refashioning, no problems. But because it was just after that 2 weeks and before the 6 weeks, they didn't want to do it. But it got to a point where she was in agony and the bowel was twisting and you could see it on the outside. So he came in, didn't he, with a metal rod and tried to put it, can you remember? He tried to put it down her colostomy, and she wasn't having any of it. And then he tried with his finger, didn't he? He says, I'm not getting that anywhere.
The finger's better than the pole.
Lottie, even if it's a baby finger and they poke it in, because they've done that to me, they feel like they're poking it out through your back.
Do they? Is that how it feels?
It kind of feels like, for me, it kind of feels like there's people there, but do you know how I get when my colostomy?
Yeah.
That
when it's full and it needs,
it feels like that, but inside of it, and that right.
Does it feel like pressure?
Yeah.
So then she had to go. straight back to theatre and have it refashioned. And it was already a flat one anyway, wasn't it? They couldn't bring it out anymore because they'd had to remove some of the colon because she'd had a tumour inside. Okay. So they'd removed that. So he was like, I can't pull it out anymore because she's not got enough to pull out. So it definitely was flat this time. But it just wouldn't work. It was still little nuggets, wasn't it? Every now and then. I could go 2 weeks without having to change a bag. Easily.
So there was really no need for you to have a colostomy because, like, in reality, your bowel wasn't doing anything before you had the stoma, and it wasn't doing anything when you had the colostomy.
No.
Yeah.
So flushing through with the ACE wasn't working, and they'd have her in hospital and they'd flush her through with the ACE, and you look at them and you're like, I told you so, sort of thing.
This blows me away because for our audience listening, what Angela has just said here is they would flush her ACE to see if they could get her colostomy working. Normally you have an ACE, they close it up and they give you a colostomy or an ileostomy. But Lottie had her ACE that could be flushed and she also had her colostomy. Just like think about that for a second, guys. This is just mind blowing what this 12-year-old has had to go through. It is crazy, absolutely crazy. So they're flushing her with a laxative through her ACE to try and stimulate the colostomy to work. Did it work? Did it do what it was supposed to do?
Never did it, Lottie? No. But she would have, so say like every 3 to 4 weeks, we call it punami. She would have punami, wouldn't you?
It.
And at times, it depends where you never knew when it was going to happen. So I remember us in the bedroom once, wasn't we? And your bag was like, we thought it was air, didn't we? And I just unpinned the bag, and when it goes with air, when it's full of air, and all of a sudden poop just went. I had to pick her up, take her in the shower, and we literally had a black bag, not the black bags that you get from Coloplast or wherever, a bin liner.
Bin liner?
No, under, and it was like it just would not stop. And we was there for nearly an hour, wasn't we? And it was like, oh, this is crazy. So yeah.
And do you think that was like a build up of laxatives eventually penetrated and penetrated till it pushed it through?
Yeah. So it took 4 weeks for any laxative to. So that would happen every now and then, which meant we wouldn't always have to go in for an NG tube because obviously it would sort of clear up, but it never did. And I think one of the problems looks wise is her tummy. She always looked like she was 6 months pregnant. And you used to hate it, didn't you? Like, always looked really big. And I kept saying to them, there's poop in there. No, we can't feel poop. Her tummy feels soft. It always feels. So we'd have to go for an X-ray, wouldn't we, Lottie? And what would happen?
There was poop.
There was poop. So, sausage links all the way up to her chest. And
from here.
Yeah.
So,
I'll never forget when I first ever saw an X-ray like that. I was so shocked. I was like, no, what is that? And they was like, that's poo. I was like, yeah. So that's what happened with the colostomy. And in the end, we went and sat down. It was the stoma nurses who advocated for us. They was I cannot. The stoma nurses at Queen's Medical Centre are absolutely wonderful. And they advocated for Lottie, and they was like, no, to a surgeon, she really, really needs this ileostomy. And they phoned up and said, yeah, we're going to go for it. We're going to shut the colostomy off. We're going to take the ACE out, and we're going to go for the ileostomy, and everything's going to work.
Even though they didn't.
So yeah, and then so the day of the surgery, we were about 50 minutes away from the hospital, so we booked a hotel and decided to make things easier for Lottie to stay there. And we sat down for food 6 o'clock at night, and your surgeon rang and cancelled. He'd been in a car accident. So, he'd actually rang us on the Wednesday before. On the Saturday. It was a Monday he was going in. On the Saturday, and said he was in A&E. He rung us off his personal mobile.
Even though it's not meant to.
And said, I've been in a car accident. I've not got enough surgeons on to do Lottie's. Oh, no, sorry. I can't do Lottie. He was really backtracking. So it was kind of like he'd not got the people. I didn't feel he was confident enough in doing it. And so he cancelled. And he says, I'll let you know. And so I explained about the hotel and everything, but no, he didn't. He let us know at 6 o'clock that evening that it was cancelled. And again, it was a fight to get her back in to have it done 2 weeks later. So she went, we signed all the forms and she went to theatre. And then he came up, as they do, to say, yeah, everything's gone okay. But on the advice of the adult surgeons who will be with Lottie, seeing Lottie soon. And I thought to myself, Lottie's 12. Adult surgeons, 6 years? 6 years that you're going to make her have a colostomy, ileostomy, and an ACE? I was like, I didn't understand it. So I kicked off a bit. I was really angry. I was like, no, I'm not having this. You've took her to theatre. Why have you not done what you said? You know, so I didn't understand. So we had a few arguments, didn't we, Lottie, with the surgeons?
You did.
I did, yes, not you.
You want the theatre to have the colostomy closed, the ACE closed, and have an ileostomy surgery. So for anyone that's listening, the very first surgery that Lottie had was her ACE, which was the appendix brought out through an opening on the skin, the button created to flush out. She then had a colostomy created, which was in her large intestine, an opening brought out through the skin where she attached her stoma bag to. And now we were supposed to be having an ileostomy stoma surgery, which is the small intestine brought out through an opening on the skin, which was going to take away all of the issues with the other two closed down. So you would have only one stoma. But you waking up from surgery and you have an ileostomy, you have a colostomy, and you have an ACE still.
Yes. Yeah.
What the flip? Like, what the actual flip? Excuse my words.
Tell them about when they redid my ACE, about the bag.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, no, that's when you came out of theatre then. They put it on. So she came out of theatre and they put her bag on upside down.
They put it sideways. So
well, no, the first time they put it on upside down. Completely upside down. I was just like, so when she went in for her ACE closed up the other day, her actual nurse was a student nurse, and she was going down into theatre to watch what was happening.
I'm so glad.
And I gave her the bags, and I was like, because I taught her the night before she'd never seen it happen before, so I went through it with her. I says, when you go to theatre, this is how you put the bag on. Please put the bag on, not the surgeons. So she took them down because Lottie was like, I don't want the bag upside down again, Mum. But yeah, she came out and she had all three. And I think the problem for me was Lottie's acceptance of having two bags. I didn't know how. For me, I thought there was nothing worse for a 12-year-old girl at that point. I think it was just such a shock to have two bags. I don't think you was that bothered, was you? But then the real problem came because the ACE sits under the ileostomy. And I panicked. I was like, I didn't know how those bags was going to sit, because we'd had such trouble with products and bags, finding the right bag for Lottie in the first place, because you're given so much, well, we was given so many choices of bags, but only one bag will ever work with Lottie's skin. As much as you loved, as much as you loved other bags, I'm sorry, but that doesn't work with the skin. Only one does. So, and they're quite thick. They're the Well Endora Plus, so they're with the Manuka honey in, and to stick them down was quite hard. So I was like, how am I going to stick them when the ACE is there? So they had to remove the ACE button and put in a ACE stopper, which was basically just a tube with a flat head. So we had that in. Then, because there was a hole in this, it wasn't a hole in the skin, it was like a dip in the skin, we had to put gauze on and then a clear film dressing on. So then the bag had to fit over that. So we was constantly having leaks all the time. And then the puke was going under the clear film into the ACE. And I was like, sure, you've not thought this through. And then there was arguing. We've left it 4 centimetres from the belly button and 4 centimetres from the ileostomy to the ace. Every bag will work. So we got
not a whole lot of space.
No, and then you try and tell them and show them, and they don't want to. No, I know there's 4 centimetres, it will work. So I just, every time it leaked, didn't I took pictures and I sent it to the stoma nurses. I said, just show the surgeon, this is, how many leaks we've had today. But I mean, the ileostomy seems to work great. Absolutely, wonderful. And then all of a sudden, just before Christmas, you started to have trouble with your skin. So she started getting keloid scarring around her ace.
Okay.
And it got quite big, but then this lump came under the keloid scarring. And we just couldn't keep a bag on. I couldn't push, it physically hurt her. She was screaming. So I couldn't literally push the bag down to stick it. It was too painful, wasn't it?
Yep.
And they gave her antibiotics and didn't do anything. And then they took you in, didn't they, into A&E. They was like, oh, her surgeon's not here. We'll use a different one who knows about Lottie. And I call them apprentices. I don't think he quite is an apprentice, he's an understudy or something. He came in and he was like, right, this is what we're going to, not talking to Lottie, talking to me, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, I can't believe you've just said that. I'd rather you've taken me out of the room and told me so I can
I weren't even listening to what he said.
Why? You on the iPad and phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was like, as soon as she hears needles or scalpel or anything like that, she panics. And so we got them to do a cover, didn't we, in front of your face?
Yeah, but then you also lied to me.
I did. And this is the thing, you have to sometimes. It's sort of, what did I lie about?
You said that they were gonna take the ace out.
Oh, and
put a
syringe in, just because I know she'd feel movement there. I had to kind of tell her something that wouldn't scare her.
But that ended up scaring me anyway.
So yeah, they gave gas in here and they put a 2 centimetre cut into the lump. And obviously nothing came out because it wasn't an abscess. It wasn't.
So they cut what was effectively keloids or
yes,
granuloma type things around her stoma, but
it wasn't pussy, abscessy or anything like that. So he went and got the surgeon and they was like, oh, okay, we'll send, she needs scans and things. And so they did all that. And it turns out that she had a tumour growing on her appendix, along with, I think there was 3 abscesses as well. But obviously we didn't know at the time how bad everything was. And they said, we'll schedule in for surgery in a couple of days. We'll ring you tomorrow morning, pack your things just in case, tomorrow morning. Every night you've got to starve her and to, the usual things for theatre that morning. So we did that. We did that for 3 nights, I think it was. And then I couldn't take looking at her in that pain anymore.
Yeah.
So we got everything, didn't we? And we went to the hospital and went to A&E and said, look, we need to see her surgeons. And I just basically said to him, we're not leaving. I've got our things. We've travelled, however long it's took us, 80 minutes. We've travelled here. We are not going home. At what point does she become an emergency that you're actually going to operate? Because they said she was an emergency. Unless she's in hospital, you are not going to class her as an emergency. So we stayed there, and then she had to have some medication to sort of slow down the process of everything. And yeah, they operated on her and come out and said basically she'd got two days. If they hadn't have operated on her, it could have just all exploded. The state of when they took the abscesses out, I think they was that bad that they was concerned that. So yeah.
And if you hadn't have advocated for her, We mightn't be sitting here telling this story today.
No. And she had a bad few days straight after the operation, but then she seemed to pick up really well, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I tend to think they want to rush you straight after theatre. As soon as you've had the operation, it's come on, get off your pain medication, And it's like, this girl's on fentanyl, she's pushing the button herself, and surely, if for you to put her on that and then just try and take her off it straight away, that's surely. And then a nurse come and they said no, they've got to wean her off of it. So then we had a few days weaning off, but she can't eat or anything, can you, when you're on pain medication like that? And I said to them, I'm not happy going home until her bowels are working again and everything, because they just seem to want to, as soon as she can get up and walk, as long as she can tolerate fluids, you can go home.
How many days did I even have in there?
I can't remember now. I think it was 7.
It didn't feel like 7.
I know, but it was a long time.
It did not feel like 7.
So yeah, and now I think it was 3 days when we've been home, her scar burst open, and it won't heal. So the keloid scarring's coming back around, sort of where. So I'd say it was a 5-centimeter gash wound that they'd done to remove the ACE and take that away. And I'd say it's probably 3 centimeters now that it's open wide on her tummy. And again, her bags sit over on the top of that.
Yeah. So you're just having that dressed for now, Lottie?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the minute, aren't you?
It's a very slow process of it healing, because it heals from the inside.
Yes.
Yeah. But it is only just over 2 weeks, isn't it, since you had that last surgery?
Yeah, just over 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you're actually doing amazing. I can't believe that you're still. Someone asked me, I said this earlier, someone asked me, can you have 2 stomas? Can you have an ileostomy and a colostomy at the same time? And I actually said to them, I don't know the answer to that. Because I don't know anyone that has both. Well, I actually do. So I think it's crazy. I know the ileostomy is working and doing what it's supposed to do. You have the colostomy and it's kind of working as, well, we kind of said it was a mucus fistula, where the mucus that's still in the large colon will come out into your bag that way. But how often do you have to change that colostomy bag now?
We change it every 2 days. Not every day, do we? It depends.
Almost.
Yeah, it depends, doesn't it? Because she wears a stoma cap on that, on her colostomy, rather than a full bag, just so it gives her a bit of space on her tummy, because the bags are quite big. So the stoma, it depends. So before, when she had her ACE, we was getting nothing out because it was leaking into essentially her tummy from the ACE, from the large colon and the appendix. But now it started working again, hasn't it? But the only trouble with that is, so she's still getting mucus from her bottom as well, bloody mucus at times. You've not anymore since you've had it redone. You've not, because it seems to be working again through the colostomy. And I don't know why. Somebody said that your brain tricks your bottom if your large colon isn't working, and that's why mucus comes through there.
Well,
or something like that.
The large bowel, it's designed, it's its function is to create mucus.
Yes.
To let your poo slide along easily to come out. So although it's cut, you would think, oh, it's dead, it'll not do anything. It's still an active organ. It still makes mucus pass along. So if your colostomy is here, your mucus will pass out. But if you've got mucus being created along the lower part of your large intestine, it will still want to come out your bottom. So that's totally normal. I do it quite regularly. But the problem is, because you have a diagnosis of ulcerative colitis as well, that because this part of the large bowel isn't working, it becomes inflamed and it gets agitated, it gets angry because it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So sometimes it bleeds whenever the mucus passes along it, becomes inflamed, and that's why you'll get bloody mucus coming
Yeah.
out. But,
Yeah. And I think it's all for a 12-year-old. Do you know, when I look on social media, there's so many children with this, and it's not talked about. It's not normalized. And yet there is so many children out there with it. And I just think it's wonderful. Like, we met up in October for the colostomy day, didn't we? UK day. And we met up with everybody, and it was amazing. It was such a wonderful day.
It's in Liverpool.
It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that
Liverpool.
because I was on holiday, but
Oh,
were
how
you
dare
there
you
for
have
the
holiday?
evening party?
Yes, we went to both, didn't we?
So my youngest daughter was there with her girlfriend. They went to the evening party on my behalf because they live in Liverpool. So they would have been there.
Oh, there you go. We would have seen them.
Yeah.
We was there
Yeah.
all night, wasn't we? Lottie was dancing away on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You was with Mel and Kim.
Well, yeah, barely.
There was a Dalek, wasn't there? You fell in love with the Dalek.
I want one. I was scared of the Joker though.
Yeah.
So yeah, she but yeah, like I say, all the young children, it's just so nice to have somebody to talk to, like other parents. That's a huge thing. And for you as well to talk to the other children.
So did you feel then that that was important that you share your story and your journey on social media because you got help and support from other people?
Yeah.
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 It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
she's also designing stomaware.
I thought you were almost gonna forget about.
You thought I was going to forget to tell her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's a company contacted Lottie. It's only a local small company, but we know another lady who also has a stoma, and who went to the school that Lottie goes to. And so she contacted us and to see if Lottie would like to be the children's advocate for her company to create some underwear for children with stomas.
Wow.
Well, we've tried the M&S ones and we're not a fan. And oh my god, so Lottie's told her everything she wants in a pair of pants, basically, to hold her stoma in and feel comfortable. And so yeah, she's making them, and then Lottie's going to try them again, aren't you, and see what materials are best, and
also to see how, if like I want this.
Yeah, just how the design, how you want them into it and to feel. And so yeah, she's really took that on board, haven't you?
Yeah. Amazing. And we will tag Lottie's Instagram handle here below in the show notes. So guys, if you're listening or watching today, do go over and give her a follow there. And if you've got any questions, do drop them a message. I'm sure they will share their answers or their
Absolutely. I think that's a massive thing, isn't it? It's like you want to be part of this community and you want to help others. And I think for Lottie as well, when people ask questions, and every child's different. So, and like you say, with Lottie having all three, it's kind of how her colostomy works might not be how another child's colostomy works. And so, to get that out there and give them advice and help is lovely, isn't it? It's really good.
I think because so many of us have like similar stories. My original diagnosis was slow colon transit, slow bowel dysmotility.
Yeah.
And so many people have diagnoses, but all of their stories are different. How their condition has impacted them or maybe caused them to have a stoma is completely different from one person to the next person.
Yes.
So, although there are a lot of people that turn up on social media and share their experiences, everyone's is completely different. And I think that, the more we can share, the more we can advocate for people in the bowel community, it helps those people. Because I know before I had surgery, I was searching for one other person just like me. And it wasn't until I had surgery that that social media started to open up, and I found more and more and more people. I was searching for something. So, if there's someone out there with a similar story to me, someone else is certainly out there searching today for a similar story.
Yes.
And a similar story to yourself, Lottie. I mean, I was just in conversation recently with another mum who has a 3-year-old, and she has been advocating for the last almost 3 years for her child, and she will not rest. She will not rest. And I said, you cannot give up, because that child's your responsibility.
Yes.
You're going to have to advocate, whether that child is 3 or 23, you're always going to try and advocate for it. It doesn't have a voice. You do, and you're that child's voice. So it's very, very important that you, and nobody likes to hear a diagnosis. Nobody wants to hear that their child is going to have to go through surgery. But when they've got a 0 quality of life, and surgery is going to give life.
It's the difference between not having a diagnosis and having a diagnosis. I don't think there's much difference, because you're still advocating when they've not got a diagnosis, but then when they've got a diagnosis, you're advocating as well, because you know, so there's not really, I don't see it as there's much difference, because you know there's something wrong with your child regardless, and you need to advocate for that, and you need to, you know, you need to find people who understand that. And I think the community is so important. I didn't understand how important it was, like I say, until I met Jackson, Jessica, and knew that there was other people out there the same as Lottie.
Exactly.
And if somebody's out there, I've spoke to a couple on Instagram recently, who's had an ACE and just gone to a colostomy, a little girl, and she's so lost, just going into teenage years and understanding a body at the same time as sort of going through these changes in her bowels. And like Lottie was on a call with a friend of hers, but she'd invited some more friends, hadn't she? And Lottie told them about her condition and about her bag and things, and then some of the girls laughed at
one.
And I said to Lottie, that's okay. It's okay that they laughed, because they don't understand, and maybe they're a bit nervous to ask questions, and laughing really is just their way of coping. So it's trying to help Lottie understand that negative reactions are okay. It's fine. You're always going to have negative reactions.
So really, I don't think she should be friends with them anymore because of how she's been treating.
But that's a different thing.
I know,
and it's ignorance on their behalf, because they don't understand what it is. They don't have any knowledge of it. They have no education on it, because
that's right.
They don't
but
know.
Also, they are like 7 or 8 or something.
That's right. They're really young and they don't understand. And it's sort of, you can't take that to heart. You've got to just let it go over your head, because, you know, understanding is a big thing. You'll come across people in your life who's got different disabilities, and you'll not have any understanding of it, and you might have questions about that. So to understand yourself, that people will have questions for you.
I won't laugh at them as well.
I know. No,
she did.
Well, that's okay. That's your, you know. But yeah.
So Lottie, if your ACE was closed up and there was it was gone, healed over, done with, and this colostomy button, or what do you call that, an end stop? What do stop cover type thing?
The stoma cap.
Yeah, the stoma cap. Your colostomy technically isn't working, and you've just got your ileostomy. Would you be in as much pain, or do you feel like it's doing the job finally that it should be doing? I'm pooping, the ileostomy's working. Have you froze? You froze on my screen. We'll just give you a second to see if it can
know.
Yeah, so explain about your tummy. So we explained earlier. Oh, okay. Are we back?
Yeah, well, I can hear your voice.
Okay. We'll keep moving so you can...
Go ahead, you can answer the question. Hopefully you'll come back on the screen.
Okay. Are we back? No. Not yet.
Quite.
Okay. Yeah, so like we said before about Lottie's tummy, when she... No. My goodness, I've moved my phone.
Place it there, that's right.
Are we back?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So like we said before with Lottie's tummy, when she had the ACE, her tummy was always distended and quite big. Lottie now actually has hips and a flat tummy, don't you?
It's not really.
It's really flat compared to what it was.
Well, yeah, but it's not flat.
But compared to what it was, it's really like you've got hips, you can see your hips, and it goes in rather than, before when it was just a big, yeah. And yeah, your ileostomy works really well, doesn't it? A bit too well sometimes. It's just thick. Yeah, it's just the consistency that they're going to be testing her for some tummy issues, to see digestion issues because of how thick it constantly is. But it's always been that consistency. There's been no change in it. So, and it is working. So at the moment, I'm happy with how things are. And you're not having pain, really, are you? Or
not really.
No. So it's.
And you're able to eat and drink with it.
So she struggles with eating, don't you? Drinking's got so much better.
Okay, good.
Which is fine by me. As long as she's drinking, I'm happy. She's learning to eat differently. So she's eating small but often, rather than large, like breakfast, dinner, tea.
I do that, those stuff.
Yeah, you still you still have breakfast, dinner, tea, of course, but you'd have a smaller meal.
Not really.
And then little bits in between, wouldn't you? You
well,
don't.
Yeah,
so if I give you
snacks.
Do you feel you're more hungry now because your ileostomy is always working, but you eat smaller amounts?
So I'd say you're always hungry. You're more hungrier.
But it's just choosing what to eat.
Can't eat, isn't there? What can't you eat?
Skins.
You can't have fruit skins, can you? Because that's really bad for you. What fruit can't you eat?
Apples, fruit.
What's the worst fruit? What happens? Pineapple.
I love that though.
She loves pineapple, bad. And then we found out last night mushy peas and mint sauce doesn't work. So there is some foods that she's always been quite selective on food anyway. But she's at the moment she'll want a meal. So say I do a sausage, mash and beans, she'll just have a few forkfuls of the mash and the beans, and then she'll be full. So it's like she is just eating smaller and often.
Yeah.
But drinking, I'm really proud of her for her drinking. She's doing so well. Because it is hard for them, isn't it? It's like they've got so much to understand and so much to do, and they just want to be kids. So how, you've kind of got to give them some leeway and let them do and be what they want, haven't you? And if she wants to have a jelly for a dinner, then she can have a jelly for a dinner. And
absolutely, life is far too short. Is there anything else that you want to talk about today, Lottie, before we wrap up? Because I'm conscious of our time.
No.
Or anything else you want to mention?
Anything else that bugs you with the stoma, toilets, anything like that?
Well, yeah,
toilets bug you, don't they? Yeah. And she hates getting up in the night to the toilet. And
I just can't be bothered to do it.
Yeah. So she can't change her own bags at the moment as well, which she struggles with. So we have a thing. As long as she empties her own bag, I'll do the changing for now.
Well, no, you do it all the time.
For now. But she struggles sometimes, don't you? It's like a military operation going to empty a bag. She has to have a mask on. She has to have gloves on. She's
getting up in the middle of the night. That's a real chore to have to do.
Well, sometimes I have a mask. It's just when I've got in my pajamas. Sometimes when I've got the button-up tops on, I have to have a mask on for that because I can't really.
Because the smell comes up, does it? Yeah. Yeah. So she does struggle with acceptance of what's happening with her and what's going off. Like she'll have a little bit of a tantrum at empty, like you did this morning. She'll want me to empty a bag, and I'll say to her, "Well, Lottie, if you went to the toilet normally, would I come and wipe your bottom?"
Well,
So it's kind of like you've got to be harsh at times, haven't
But
you?
the thing is, I split up, so you did the emptying and I did the cleaning of it.
It doesn't work like that, does it?
It
You'll have to
does.
hold your nose.
Yeah. So yeah, she's not accepted the smell at all yet. She's terrible with it.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's small steps, isn't it? And like you say, she's 12.
You need to
So
get
I've
some
gone
drops,
through.
put into your bag to give it a bit of a.
Oh, we've tried it. We've tried the
It
drops,
doesn't work.
which somebody said, oh, extra strong mints. Put a couple of those in the bag. But
I'll
like,
try it. But
I don't know.
yeah, I just think, but as many times as you're emptying it,
yeah,
gosh, it's going to be quite expensive. That is keeping your bag in mints.
yeah.
Also, I don't like the smell of mint.
Yeah, she doesn't like mint, so
Okay.
yeah,
Unless if you got like cola flavored
yeah.
mint.
But products as well. Products has been a hard one, hasn't it? Because they like to throw products at you, don't they? Well,
Yeah, but again,
some
it's
do.
finding what works for you at the end of the
Yeah,
day, and that's the important thing, regardless of
yeah.
what you're up to.
Well, this is the thing, and it's like what people ask you for advice all the time on products, and I feel bad answering because sometimes you don't know what's going to work with them.
It's true.
So, as much as you can say, oh yeah, I mean, our favorite product is Fusion. Oh my goodness, it's
I
a
love
life
it.
changer.
I love Fusion.
But that might not work with next door. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like
Yeah.
that might not be effective with their skin, and it might not stick on their skin. So you sometimes feel bad giving advice. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think
Well,
other than
we're
that,
not experts. We're not
no,
experts, and so I'll say that for those that are listening today, we are not experts. We're not professionals. And if you're listening and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, my child has a similar story to that," or whatever, do advocate for them, do push, go and see a GP,
yes,
get the professional, the expert opinion, because everyone's health matters. And you've heard the
yes,
story there, of Angela has been advocating Lottie's whole life. She continues to advocate, even though she has had 13 surgeries alone last year. It is absolutely crazy. You have to continually advocate and push for yourself. So do that, guys. Lottie, if there was one little like special piece of information that you could give to another child, another girl even listening today, um, about having stoma surgery or having a bowel problem, what would it be?
always wear that dress. Do you not think?
I don't know.
What do you think?
Always be yourself.
Always
No
be
matter
yourself.
what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always be yourself and always wear that dress. Lottie's thing is always put the dress on and wear the dress. She likes the dress, don't you? And like before, she wouldn't wear them because of her tummy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
I did
now you,
really.
you wore it not to how you wear them now, like the shimmery dress and
Oh, I
yeah.
love that dress.
So
It's
it's
like Taylor Swift. Realist.
yeah, she now she's got the confidence because her
Good.
tummy's gone down to wear that dress. So
Mhm.
yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? What you think you look like, just be yourself and be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lottie and Angela, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your incredible story today. Keep turning up on social media, keep doing what you are doing. You're absolutely smashing it. And yeah, I can't wait until your episode is aired and everybody gets to hear it. Guys, if you've got any questions, or audience, listeners, viewers today, pop them over to Lottie's Instagram page or to myself, and we will try and get you answers to those questions. But from us today, it is over and out, guys. Do come back and join us next week for another episode when we will see you then. Thank you, Lottie. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thanks.